All right, so we are still in the process of learning about Saul to Paul, and we will be looking at Acts 22. We'll be looking at Acts 22. Um, to give you a little bit of background information while you're turning to Acts 22. So Paul, who has now made the transition from Saul to Paul, okay, he is now he has now been captured and he is being held prisoner in Jerusalem. Okay, so he has returned to Jerusalem and he has been captured by the Sadducees and the Pharisees and basically the same people that killed Jesus. And they are holding him, and has killed at this point Stephen, the first deacon, and they have held him. So they have now taken hold of Paul, and Paul is now testifying as to who he is. So this is the best analysis of who Paul was before he was Saul. Before he was Paul, when he was Saul. This is him explaining who he was to us, the reader, and to the people that had held him. Okay? So, number one, first off, in the first verse here, verse 1 through 2 of 22, we see that Paul speaks Hebrew. Okay, he speaks that language. So right off the bat, everybody is silenced by the mere fact that he is speaking in their language. Remember, this is the same Jewish people that killed Jesus. And they are all for the killing of Christians. But now, Paul is not speaking in the common tongue. He's speaking to them directly in their tongue, in Hebrew. Now we'll pick it up at verse 3. We're reading it in English, but I want you to get the idea that he's speaking to them in their own language, in Hebrew. And he says, I am indeed a Jew. Let's pause right there. So that is both, we now know, cultural and religious, right? That means he was born into being a Jew. He is a Jew from birth. He is culturally of them. Brought up in this city. In what city? Jerusalem. At the feet of Gamaliel, taught according to the strictness of our father's law. Let's pause right there. Now, this is very important. Not everybody was taught this way. All right, I'll put it in a different way, right? So, let's say that you meet a person that does martial arts, like he does karate, right? And you say, okay, you guy that do karate, why should I learn from you? And he says, well, I was taught directly by Bruce Lee. So you'll go, oh, I don't know you, but I know what? Bruce Lee. Oh, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. But if you were to say, I was taught by Joe Nobody, then you'll go, okay, he's taught by Joe Nobody. Okay, whatever, guy, just move on. For him to name him by name tells you that he was taught by a Bruce Lee type figure. He's telling you his lineage. He's saying, I'm not just one of you guys that's just wandering around. I was taught, I sat at the feet of this great teacher. And he did not just teach me, he taught me the strictness of the law and was zealous towards God. As you, who is he saying you? Remember, who's there right now?
Hebrews.
Not just the Hebrews, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. The same people that killed Stephen, the same people that killed Jesus, the same group. This is the higher up. So he's saying the way that you were taught is the way that I was taught. You get what I'm saying? He's saying you guys are looking at me as something other than you. But he's telling them, I am you. Or at least I was you. I was taught the way you were taught. I sat at the feet of a great man as all of you have sat at the feet of a great man. You were taught the strictness and love of God. I was taught the strictness of love of God. We were taught the same thing. I persecuted this way to death. I persecuted this way to death, binding and delivering into prison both men and women, as also the high priest bear me witness. Let's pause there. Remember, if we go all the way back before Mother's Day, when I introduced Saul, Saul had killed everybody he could in Jerusalem. He didn't do that by himself. Who did he kill with the permission of?
Who did he kill with?
Yeah. He didn't you just can't go, like today, right? You just can't go and start killing people, right? You have to go and get permission. Who would you get permission to go and kill people?
The internet.
Now. Anyone, anytime.
Not anybody. There
are people. Oh, yeah. Right now. We have executioners. They kill prisoners. Do they just kill them? Can you just go to jail and start killing prisoners? Who do you get permission from?
The higher up.
The government. The government. Okay. We have an electric chair here in Texas.
We used to. It's lethal injection now.
We have a table that people will be strapped to, and they will be given poison till they're dead. I just can't. So I say, okay, I want to do that. So I walk into prison on execution day, and I start handing out needles. Can I do that?
If you have that permission.
From who?
The government.
From the government. Right. So Paul is saying right here, I had the permission of who? The high priest. So the high priest, you guys that are here right now, you can bear witness to the fact that I had permission and did execute all these people. Why did he do that? Did he do that because he hated Christians? You got to understand what he just said. He was zealous to the law. He saw Christians as an attack on his religion. So, because the Christians were blaspheming his God by saying Jesus Christ was the Son of God, and they had all rejected that, they were blaspheming God. And so for Paul, they had to be killed.
Now, let me think about it. All right, Paul, this is after he was in prison and everything himself.
No.
This was before all.
This is when he was Saul. He's explaining to people. He's giving them, which is giving us his background.
Okay.
So he's saying, when I was Saul, I came up just like you came up. I had a great teacher, as all of you have had great teachers. I was taught in the strictness of the law, as all of you were taught in the strictness of law. I was a zealot. Zealot, meaning a zealot is a person that will kill for God. Those aren't regular people. If you ever meet a zealot, know that those are the people that are down for the cause. We have American zealots. We have Jewish zealots. We have Muslim zealots. We have Christian zealots. He's saying, I was a guy that was zealous for God. Because of that, he persecuted Christians to death by order or under the command of the high priest. All of you who are high priests in this room can bear witness to the fact of who I was.
But that's the key word, who I was.
As Saul. So you all have to understand that I, Saul, Paul now, was once like you. I was once Saul. You see?
But that doesn't mean that was the right thing to do.
No, but it was right in his eyes because that was before he met God. And that's what he's trying to get them to understand. Before, and we'll get to the part where he says he met God, but I want you to see where he was. This was not just some random dude that was just wandering down the street killing Christians. He was a high priest. He was actually a Sadducee. We'll get to that maybe today. But he was trained as a priest. He was trained. Because of that training, that zealousness, he saw Christians as blaspheming the God that he loved. And that's why he came to kill them. So, and all the council of the elders, from whom I also received letters to the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring chains, even those who were there to Jerusalem to be punished. So he's saying, I did all the damage I could here in Jerusalem. And you guys, remember, he's in Jerusalem right now. You gave me letters that allowed me to go to Damascus and do the same thing. Because remember, where is he at? He's in Jerusalem. And he's talking to the same people that sent him out to kill Christians. But now he's standing before them as what? As a Christian. The power of this testimony comes from the fact that he's trying to get them to see there is a change that happened in me that was never going to happen in me unless something miraculous happened. There is no Saul to Paul. That's what he's trying to get them to see. Saul was just like you, stiff-necked, hard-headed, didn't believe. I was just like you, and I had got letters from you guys that are now here to persecute me, from you, to kill every Christian in Damascus. Now it happened as I journeyed, came near to Damascus about noon, suddenly a great light from heaven shone around me and fell to me The ground. And we're going to go over this Sunday. We're going to go into this one more Sunday. Saul, Saul, why you persecute me? So I answered, who are you? And Jesus said, Jesus of Nazareth, whom you persecute. That's where we're going to end this part, because we're not going to go into the analysis and all that stuff. But I want you to get this. Saul is explaining to them that before that situation in Damascus, I was one of you.
The only difference is this happened here, he wasn't listening to no high priest then, he was listening to the Almighty.
He was almighty. If it wasn't for that situation in Damascus, he would still be like them. He's explaining to them, it's like, the best way to explain it is when you're doing jail ministry, right? The best people to go and do jail ministry are the ones that have been in there. And now they've turned their life around because they're in jail. They met Jesus. So now they go back, but they don't go back saying like me, who says, I've never been to jail. Here's God. They're saying, I was once what? Like you. And because I was like you, I was bad like you. I went and I did all the stuff that you did. And some of you may even know me when I did that stuff. Some of you may have even been with me when I did that stuff. But now I stand before you a changed man.
We all have sinned and came short.
So that's what Paul is saying to them. You were going to say something?
He was trying to show them how bad he was. In other words, what all kind of life that he had led and how he came about becoming a Christian.
Becoming a Christian, right. But in that story, you could see the position that Saul gave up to be a Christian. He was sitting really nice as a high priest, sat under this great man, got letters to do whatever he wanted to do. And he gave all of that up to now stand before these same people to preach the gospel. But he's saying, I was once like you. We're not different. You know me. I'm the same God. It's like when you see these dudes doing gang intervention or drug intervention, right? They say, I was strung out like you were strung out. I lived in a tent like you live in a tent. But I met Jesus and now my life has changed. And people go, well, you know, you're not, you don't understand. No, I was with you. Some of you even know me when I was living in the tent. But now, since I met Jesus, now I can be something else. So really, if you really listen to what Paul is saying here, he's giving them an invitation. He's saying, if I can be saved and I literally was killing Christians, then you who just gave me letters can come on in too. But then the unfortunate part is that 17, now it happened when I returned to Jerusalem and was praying in the temple that I was in a trance and saw him saying to me, make haste and get out of Jerusalem quickly, for they will not receive your testimony concerning me.
Just because they know who he used to be.
No. Hard-hearted. The fact that they knew who he used to be should have been the transformation. This, remember when I went a while ago, when we went over in painstaking detail, Jesus meeting the man in the graveyard. Remember that? Jesus told the man to stay there. Why? Because that man was, every breath he took was a remembrance, a reminder to all of the people, the power of God to transform a life. Paul, as Saul, as Paul now, was the same reminder. But these people were hard-hearted. So they didn't listen. So I said, Lord, they know that in every synagogue I imprisoned and beat those who believed in you. Get what he's saying here now. He didn't say he sent people to imprison and beat. What did he say? I imprisoned and beat those who believed in you. And when the blood of your martyr Stephen was shed, I was also standing by, consenting to his death. So the first martyr, the first deacon died, and Saul was right there giving a thumbs up and guarding the clothes. So he took an active participation in his death. And he said, depart, I will send you far from here. To whom? You and me. To you and me. To the Gentiles. These Jews ain't going to listen to you. But I'm going to send you to someone who will. They're hard-hearted. They're not going to listen to you. But I'm going to send you to someone who will listen to you. So, going back to my analogy, the guy was in a gang, right? He was the main one, shooting, killing, robbing, stealing. Goes to jail, meets a jailhouse minister. Jailhouse minister tells him what you were doing was wrong. He didn't know what he was doing was wrong. He never read the Bible. Never been a day in church. Pricked his heart. He goes, okay, I'm going to change my way. Gets out of jail, gets a family, finds a church, changes his life. Goes back to this same gang and says, look, I changed my life. You could do the same. That gang says, nah, you punked out, leave. We're not going to listen to you. You are a nobody now. Go, leave. Look, you used to be hard and now you're soft. Go away. The man's dejected. They ain't my own gang. The homies I grew up with. But then he turns around and he sees that there's a whole bunch of other gang members. He couldn't get his own gang, but he could get all these people instead. Sometimes it's that way. Sometimes it's that way.
And ain't it still that way today? The Jews have a different belief.
Oh, yeah. Not all of them. Some Jews have converted, but they're no longer called Jews. They're called Christians. But no. There was quite a few Jews that did convert. There's quite a few. Quite a few Jews converted. A lot of them actually converted. But you don't hear about them because they're Christians. They're not, you don't call them a Jew. You call them Christian. You know, it's just like a Muslim converts. He's not a Muslim Christian. He's a what? He's a Christian. So you say no Muslims converted. No, well, that's just not true. They converted, but they're Christians. So no Jews converted, but they weren't going to convert with Paul. They had other apostles that came to them that they listened to, but it wasn't going to be Paul. But see, those apostles that came to the Jews, the Gentiles weren't going to listen to. So Paul had a role, and those other apostles had a role. Why were the Gentiles going to listen to him? Well, let's read on a little bit further. So 24, they're about to beat him. Scourging means beating, okay? So they carried him away, and they're about to beat him. And Paul says, 25, and as they bound him with thong, Paul said to the centurion who stood by, is it lawful for you to scourge a man who is here it is, a Roman and uncondemned? Paul had dual citizenship. Paul was a Roman from birth. So Paul was able to go places where other Jews weren't able to go. You see? He understood Roman culture because he was also Roman from birth. So when a Roman looked at Paul and Paul started speaking to them, he was speaking to them from their culture as Roman to Roman.
But he was speaking earlier to him in the Hebrew language.
He hasn't left yet. He's still being sucked up by the Jews right now. But he's informing us, and this is the first time we've heard about it, that he's also a Roman citizen. He's also a Roman citizen, which means he speaks, I want to say Aramaic, but he speaks the common tongue. He understands the Roman culture. Who better to go to the Romans than a Jew who has all the marks and privileges and all the learning and education and all the rights and privileges afforded to a man that has been sat down and learned from birth about God, to go and challenge the great minds of Rome. So now you see when he walks into a town and walks out having converted the whole town, that he could do that, because whereas the other disciples had problems because they may not have understood as closely as Paul understands the Roman culture. So when Jesus says to Paul, I have a place for you to go, it will not be here. It will be where? With the Gentiles. So all of that was preparing him so that he could go.
I mean, by him telling them he was a Roman, I mean, you can tell anybody that you're whatever. How did they really know that he was? Are they just believing?
No, more than likely what they're not saying is that they looked it up. If he was a Roman, there's certain seals and symbols that they had, like birth rolls. So he would have had birth rolls to show that because he says right here, he says in 28, the commander answers, with a large sum I obtained this citizenship. So he's saying, I paid my way in, right?
But Paul turned around and said he was born.
I was born a citizen.
So,
Which means he's on the birth rolls of Rome. So these Jews can't touch him, is what he's basically saying. You don't have the authority over me because I'm Roman. So literally, I would have to be condemned by Rome to die, which kind of plays out in the end of his life.
so did they just stop and say, wait, I'm going to go check the roll? I mean,
Well, that goes, but that's that's not here because we're focused on Paul. So that's why in 11, the thing says a plot to kill him. Because they can't just outright execute the man now. So I'm sure they went back and checked that roll real good. And they said, dang, Paul is.
So if, just with him being a Roman, what made them decide? Were they afraid that the Romans would come and kill them?
Oh, without a doubt. If you see, in Rome, they conquered everybody, right? So let's say that they came and conquered America, right? So Rome was over America. So but the way Rome did it is they conquered so much, they didn't have the ability to govern everything, like to be on top of you, like a boss that's just watching you, right? So they allowed them to govern themselves as long as they paid taxes to Rome, right? So you did everything you wanted to do within America, right? But they had no ability to touch a Roman, any Roman, because they were technically slaves of Rome. So you could kill any American you want, do whatever you want to an American. We don't care, as long as you pay us our taxes on time. But a Roman, you have no authority over because they're up here. So you would have to go and petition what? Rome. But Paul is uncondemned by who? Rome. Rome doesn't care at this point because Christians haven't become a problem yet.
Rome had conquered most all of this area.
All of it.
All of it, and plus, like all of that around that sea.
Right. Well,
like,
Rome had conquered Jerusalem. So Rome had conquered all of, at this time, there were no free Jews. They were conquered.
Romans that had taken over everything.
Yeah, they had taken over. But the way Rome did it is they just allowed them to do their own thing.
And just pay taxes.
And pay taxes. We don't care about your religion. We don't care about any of that as long as you pay us taxes. You pay tribute and you don't get in the way of what we're doing. You can govern yourself. And as long as you are doing that and not causing us any problems, we're going to go and conquer the rest of the world. And that's how Rome was able to conquer like everything, right? They conquered literally everything. So, but they didn't have the ability to govern it. That's kind of what destroyed Rome in the end. They didn't have the ability to truly govern all of it. So all these people started being like, why are we paying them again? Oh, because of their mighty army. Well, look, their mighty army isn't mighty anymore. Peace, we're out. But by that time, Christianity had been able to use what the Roman Empire had made as an infrastructure, the roads, the common language, all of these things.
So these Roman armies just went to these places and to collect the taxes, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And really control them. I'm thinking like all the castles and all that kind of thing way over there and
No, think of it more like, how often do you see a federal police officer?
not unless there's probably been a killing or
No, you don't really see them. If you shoot me right now, the feds aren't going to come down. You're going to see the Texas police. And more so, you're going to see the police of, where are we at? Bushy Creek, right? So,
They don't have no police.
of Cooney, that's the people I know.
you see the Texas Rangers.
You'll see the Rangers. You're not going to see a Fed. They don't care. Now, you steal from the bank. Now you've done something big. The feds are going to come. The governments were like that. They don't care what you do inside your little stuff. You pay us taxes. You pay tribute to Caesar, and you can have your Jewish religion. We don't care. You can kill whoever you want that's Jewish. We don't care. But then they started uprising. Then they started caring. So they smashed them down and destroyed their temple because they uprose. They're like, we don't want to be under Rome. We want to be free. And Rome said, nope, and smashed them and destroyed the temple. So that's why the temple is destroyed. That's why they have no temple today, because they uprose and failed. But before that, Rome didn't care. And after they smashed them, Rome did continue to not care. They don't have time to care, to go back to your question, because their armies are busy conquering everything else. They don't, so you pay taxes and we're cool. So the Jews knew that they could kill anybody. That's why they killed Jesus. He's a Jew. He's not a Roman. So they don't have to ask Caesar. They don't have to ask. They just killed him. But Paul is a Roman by birth, not even by pay. Meaning he didn't even pay his way in. He is a Roman by birth. That means Jew down here, Roman way up here. You kill a Roman, Rome's coming to you. And everybody that touched him, they're probably going to die because you don't kill a Roman. So that's why they had to plot to figure out a way of doing it quietly. we're gonna slip him some poison in the middle of the night, right? They can't just kill him in like they killed Jesus in open public, because Jesus wasn't a Roman. He's a Jew. Well, you can do anything you want to a Jew. Kill that man. But Paul is a Roman. So if we touch a Roman, we could incur the wrath of Rome upon us. And we don't want that. We want that a little bit later when we decide to uprise. Any other questions or thoughts?
So how did the Romans react to Christians?
Oh, they hated it.
That's what I was
They hated
thinking.
it. But this is not at this time. At this time, Christianity is a Jewish problem. Christianity is a sect of Judaism. It's not really until Paul and some of the other disciples leave by force the Jewish religion and go outwards that the Gentiles, and it becomes a problem for Rome. But at this time, Rome doesn't care, because Christianity is just another small little weird group of Judaism. They haven't grown enough to be a problem for the state. Because remember,
they pay taxes.
Because they pay taxes. Man. I don't care. But then once Paul and the other disciples start getting out there and people start saying, oh, wait, in Christianity, there is no slave? Peace out. I'm not a slave anymore. Oh, no, now we got problems.
See, I watched that. This is maybe a little bit. I watched on History Channel that Mystery of Oak Island, where it's off the coast, east coast, like, I don't know, way up there near Canada and all that. But they say that the Roman guard or Romans or whatever, and I forget what they're called, they're knights or something, buried lots of treasure there, supposedly on this island of Nova Scotia. That's what it is. So I'm wondering, where did they get all their money? So they apparently got it from
who? Rome?
the Romans. They got all their gold and silver and everything else.
Oh, they plundered.
From the people.
Yeah, they plundered. Yeah, they took it. In war, if Rome went and conquered, let's say, Germany, right? Then during that conquering, okay, let's rewind. War today is weird. Okay, let's just point it out. War today is very strange and has never been done like this ever in the history. The way it's been done, pre-modern war, which is like World War I, the Russian wars and all of that. When an army went into another country, the army was happy. They were celebrating. Why were they celebrating? Because they got all the spoils to themselves. And spoils equaled women too. And they got them all to themselves. And then they would pay tribute to the state out of what they got. So the generals got the lion's share, and it trickled down from there. So when they went to a place, they got that. And when there was the holy wars, they were fighting against the Muslims. That song "Onward Christian Warrior" that comes from the holy wars. They were all excited. Why? They got that. All the spoils, it was theirs. The Romans, they would go to a place. Now, that's also why they hated uprisings. Because what did the Jewish people have to conquer and take? Nothing. So they smashed them to make sure that nobody else uprose. Because they were busy taking the spoils of other people. So they went into Egypt, and they took that stuff. They took it all. So if they buried the treasure there, it's probably because they had so much that they just put it there. If that happened, there's a lot of supposed buried treasure, but that's what they did. But when there's an uprising, where's there to take? We done taxed them to death. There's nothing to take. Now there's just a problem. So we got to smash them out because this army is not welcome here. They're welcomed stealing from the other people from somewhere else. So the Christians were not a problem at this point. So when they say, oh, Paul is a Christian, we can't touch him. I mean, Paul is a Roman, even though at this point, Rome, they don't care about Christians. Well, it's like a couple hundred people, whatever. Whatever. But then once those disciples start getting out there, and Paul walks into a town, and thousands of people start converting. Now you've got a whole town of Christians, and they don't worship Zeus, they don't worship Hera, they don't worship Poseidon, they don't worship anything. They don't pay tribute. They don't pay tribute to Caesar. They're saying that they won't swear allegiance. That's worse than an uprising. So we got to kill them. But now we kill them and they refuse, even in death. So now we got a real problem. But this is not where we're at in Acts 22. In Acts 22, Romans don't care. So the Jews can't petition to Rome and say, we got a problem here with this Christian. They'll be like, who? Christian? You mean that Jesus dude you killed? You killed? Man, I got other things. Do you have my taxes? That's what I want to know.
It's kind of like Putin is today with the Ukraine. He doesn't care about the people. He wants the minerals and the other things that are found there in that country.
Well, he wants also access to the sea. He's pushing his way to the ocean. That's really what he wants. He wants the ocean back, and all of those places that was once Russian, they want that back too. They feel like it was taken from them and they want it back. But you're right. He doesn't care. Ukrainian people.
Yeah.
He wants the spoils. He wants the stuff. So at this point, the Jews couldn't petition to Rome. Now, if this had been later in Paul's life, when he had started transforming thousands of people into Christians, and Christians started raising up and causing problems, not wanting to join the army, not wanting to do this, or their legion, what they call a legion. Now, if they petition and say, we got Paul, they'd be like, good, bring him on over. Bring him in chains. We've been looking for that guy. But that's not where we are now. So to answer your question, Lisa, the problem becomes we've got this guy who is a citizen by birth. We can't touch him. Because if we touch him being a citizen by birth, he's over us. We're subjects We're not citizens. The commander said he bought his way in. Well, if you were to buy your way into being an American, even today, you'd be like, oh, you're first gen. Well, I mean, that's great for you. Okay, well, it's cool, But to say, no, I'm an American by birth. Oh, that's different. Oh, you're an American by birth. Oh, this dude, he's an American by birth. So that was there. But you also got to remember now, this plays later in Paul's life when he gets executed. But it kind of works against him when he gets executed. But the point of the matter is that Paul has to be treated differently. But it also tells you what Paul gave up to be a Christian. He gave it all up. Dual citizenship. He goes to the Romans, and now the Jews want to kill him, and the Romans want to kill him. He has no home. He gave it all up to be with Jesus. Gave it all up. You can't ask for a more beautiful transformation than that, right? To say I gave it all up so that I could do the Lord's work. All right, party people.